Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to my YouTube channel, Budgeting with Amber. I'm Amber. If you're listening to this on the podcast, um, hello and welcome. Find You, Fall in Love is the name of that podcast if you want to switch back and forth because the budgeting channel, sometimes they overlap, but for the most part, they are separate. Kind of wanted to talk to you. I recorded something like this yesterday, but I know that I sounded a little bit bitter. And while I am going to try really hard not to have that bleed over into the channel. On top of that, my voice was doing a weird thing. So I don't know that I will release that version onto the YouTube channel. I might, we'll have to see. Okay. So I started this channel, speaking to the YouTube part of this, because I really need some accountability and somebody to answer to for my budgeting and my money situation. I have ADHD and autism and some other things going on, bipolar. And because of all of that, especially when I'm manic, have a tendency to spend money frivolously. So I really kind of want to rein that in and get a handle on it. If you have been on the podcast or been here, I don't know if I've mentioned it on the channel. I also make candles, or I had started to make candles. As in January or February, I bought some. I bought it in January. It arrived in February. Some candle supplies, and I started making candles, and I quickly got obsessed with that and hyper focused on that. And I really do very much enjoy making candles. And in September, I was doing an event for a summit, and it was talking about Christmas presents. And so I decided to launch my candle business for that event. Launch a candle business for that event, which did not go even a little bit okay. It went terrible. And I have since, and I'm not sure if it's because of stress, I have had over the last 8 months now. We're in November, in case you're not watching this right away. I have over the last 6 to 8 months had some of the worst migraines I've had in years, and the number of migraines that I've had is pretty high. And I had narrowed it down to a type of wick that I was using. And then I switched to, I had one wick that was okay. And then I had another wick that I was using that's newer and supposed to be better and really designed for soy waxes, which I had assumed that my headaches were due to, and my migraines way back in the day were due to the use of petroleum products and paraffin waxes. Turns out that's not the case. It may just be all the scents. I don't know. So I'm still working on figuring all of that out, right? And figuring out what the best course of action is with regards to, can I continue to make candles or do I need to close up shop? But I have spent an exorbitant amount of money on candle stuff and was hoping that I could at least pay for, I didn't need to become rich selling candles. I just really wanted to have the hobby that I enjoyed so much pay for itself and not have to buy 10 pounds of wax in order to make myself 3 candles kind of thing. So, and because those oils don't last forever, I needed to be able, I wanted to be able to like buy the oils that I wanted for myself and, have them used, if that makes sense. So I haven't really sat down and calculated how much I have spent on candle stuff. I'm looking at a candle that I just lit. And I haven't really tabulated how much I spent. And the other aspect of this is I'm a bookkeeper in my normal life. And what I'm learning, or what I have learned, is that most of my bookkeeping clients are service-based businesses. They don't make a product. So as I was researching that a bit more, and I did that on purpose because it's like a whole different animal. The accounting for that is a whole different animal. I do digital products, but that again is like more like service-based than actually inventory-based accounting. It's a lot. So turns out that all of these products cannot be written off on my taxes. I've made 2 sales since I started, and those are the only products that I get to write off on my taxes. So what is that? I think I sold for, actually I made 3 sales, and maybe it was 10 wax melts. So I can write off the equivalent of 10 wax melts. So it's a lot. And I've had a lot of feelings about all that. And I don't really want to dive totally into that, but I do want to dive into like the consequences of my actions with regards to this. My second cousin, is getting married in December, so next month. And I could tell you right now, just based on the knowledge of what things cost, if I had not done any of this, actually my goal with the candle business was to make enough money to be able to go to her wedding. And as it turns out, if I had just not bought all this shit and done all of this, I could have gone to her wedding. Or if I had taken the focus that I had put into those candles and put it into my bookkeeping business, I would have enough clients to do that. However, let's get on the topic of client work for just a second, because this channel legitimately is designed for people who are entrepreneurs and freelancers. Our income, most of the channels that I've been watching that do this sort of thing and cash budgeting and all of that stuff have a really consistent income, meaning that they, it may not be a ton, but they get enough money every month to pay their bills. And I'm going to say, for instance, I have one invoice that right now is sitting on 2.5 weeks due, overdue. And it's a big one. It's not like a small amount of money. It's a considerable amount of money when you consider that I've been making a consistent roughly about $1,500 a month. $350 is a lot of money in that context. So my income is not consistent at all. And over half of my client roster has to be consistently reminded to pay their bills. And so that's something I'm working on phasing out in the new year, and really working on replacing people who take forever to get me their stuff and people who take forever to pay me, if that makes sense. I have one client who's a consistent guy. He's usually about a week late paying, but he always has his stuff to me on a consistent basis. Every month he comes by and he drops off his stuff. Or I meet him somewhere. Every month I don't have to go back to him and have 4 conversations about how I don't have the right thing. It's very, very rare that we have to do anything. And at the end of the month, he's also my longest standing client at this point. And I have 3 clients that are quarterly clients, meaning that I only they don't have enough books to do other than on a quarterly basis. And that is not helpful for my pocketbook, but I don't mind doing them. They're just really small micro businesses. I do that a lot for a lot of people. And then I have a couple more who either haven't gotten me their stuff in a timely manner, or just take for bloody ever to actually do anything. And it's really stressful. And the sun has decided to come out right now. It's been cloudy and rainy all day and snowy. So if that gets too bad, I will shut that window. So there's just a lot going on, and because of all of this, over half of my client roster has to be replaced. And maybe I keep those people on, but they are not like my top priority. And I think that that is the difference between hiring a huge firm and hiring an individual. When you hire an individual who's working completely by themselves, you are that person stops what they're doing, not stops, but they have a limited number of hours in a day or in a month to do the work. And so they go, okay, I think this is going to take me, based on my experience, this number of transactions is going to take me XYZ amount of time. And they don't fill that slot, right? It is an empty slot with the notion and the idea that that person is not going to take 6 months to get their books to you. That's how that works. And so when it takes 6 months, I have now lost out on, or in the person that you've hired has now lost out on over 6 months worth of income because they haven't been working and you haven't had to pay them, which is great. Nobody owes anybody anything. But now they have shot themselves in the foot. So if you're going to hire a small person, and the reason it doesn't matter at a big firm is because they have 500 to 1,000 clients. And they have little people off to the side that can do the books, right, in the off time. So I'm really trying to figure out the best way to go about this. I think my cleanup rates have to, I have to enforce cleanup rates for people who are way behind. And if we're behind because of me, then that's my problem. If we're behind because of you, then now you get to pay cleanup rates. Like that's the only fair thing to do because I'm rewarding terrible behavior. That's where we're at. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to reward terrible behavior. And I also don't want to drop clients like crazy. I don't. What I want is for people to act right and act like grown-ups and do their jobs. Do what they're supposed to do. And yes, this doesn't sound better. So that should tell you how rough yesterday was. And maybe it does a little bit, and I hope not. That's not my goal here. So that's kind of, and I rely on that income to eat. I rely on these individual people to eat. A huge firm, again, has more clients than they need in order to cover the expenses. I have just enough clients because I don't want to overextend myself, especially at tax time. So it's just a lot to try to manage and think about. And I hope that if you are a freelancer, you understand that. I know, don't mind my coffee cup. I've had it for 15 years. So that kind of leads me into where we're going to go with my goals. I need to pull out a piece of paper. I have them written down. So I'm considering, I started bullet journaling. I got into that last year as well, at the beginning of the year. And I quickly found that for my mental health, or just, it was a trigger for me to, and I don't mean that in a trigger kind of way, it was just a weird thing that my body or my mind couldn't handle opening the book every 20 minutes to once I finished a task to get my next task. It was too much. And if you could see my office, there are post-it notes everywhere of little pieces of information. And yesterday I spent half the day looking for a notebook. So something has to change in the way that I manage my information. But I'm really very much a pen to paper kind of girl. And I'm kind of struggling, like, even when I put things in notebooks, which I have a ton of, I lose that information, right? I write it down and then I can't find it again. So I've got to figure out a system for that. And maybe I write it down on a piece of paper and I have one notebook for all my notes. And then at the end of the week or something like that, I put them into a digital system if they're worthy. I'm reviewing my notes again and I put them into a digital system so that I can search it. That's something I've considered. And I think I might jump on. For my money goals, we have ways of looking at this. I have priorities. I have a high priority rating, a priority rating, and then a secondary rating. So there's three. My biggest money goal, my single goal, is to start making $2,000 a month consistently, which definitely means not only getting new clients, but to replace the ones that are very sporadic, but definitely like new clients altogether, and probably dropping the ones that are not working for me. So replacing and then getting new on top of that. Things that I need right now. All of my shirts, like this one is from 2010. All of my clothes, almost all of my clothes, are over 10 years old. They are older than my son. Almost all of my clothing is older than my marriage and my relationship with my husband, which means I'm not in style, which I don't necessarily care about that, but it would be nice to have one outfit that is of the times, you know? The cool thing is some of the things that I had 10 years ago are finally coming back, so I'm kind of in style. But it's ridiculous and it's silly. And my husband and I were talking about this last night. It's like, why the hell are we working so hard just to eat? And I was consistently making $1,000 to $1,200 a month, and now I'm consistently making about $1,500 a month, but I can't tell because everything has gone up so much that I actually am feeling stressed and annoyed with the money situation instead of having an extra $300 a month to play with. It just doesn't make any sense. Anyway. Okay, so things that I need, because I'm noticing that almost all of my shirts, long sleeve and short sleeve, have holes in them. So I really need to replace at least 3 of my long sleeve shirts. That's where I'm at right now. Just replace 3 of them. I'm giving myself $75 total for that. And this is a secondary goal because the holes aren't huge holes. They're just holes that I know are there. And 2 of them are in armpits. So it's just not something that most people are going to see. But it would be nice not to have to wear holey clothes. 1 pair of non-high-rise jeans. I have a belly button ring, and the high-rise jeans sometimes really dig into my belly button. I have a pair of those, and they're about 2 years old now, I think, maybe two to 3. And they are starting to pill already because they were only $25 jeans. So, and on top of that, my ankles get so cold in these pants. So without boots on, I'm just freezing all of the time because my ankles are cold. So that leads me into my next one. 1 pair of winter boots. I have Uggs that I've had since 2010. Don't quote me on that. It's either 2009 or 2010. I know which apartment I had when I bought them, if that makes sense. But they are, you would, if you saw them, you would not think that they were as old as they are. But the bottoms are finally starting to wear a little bit, and the inside is completely worn on the bottom. They still keep my ankles and my calves warm, but they don't keep my feet warm. And they are definitely not waterproof anymore. I might see if I could just get a new insert and how to replace that, because I know that they do sell those. I just don't know if it's going to work for this shoe. So that's something I'm actually actively looking into, but it's still not going to make the shoes watertight anymore. So I really just would like to replace them. I don't need $400 boots again. I don't. I am going to give myself about $100 for the boots, and that is a primary need because it is November, it is already snowing outside, and I'm the one that shovels, so really need those boots. And to not have soaking wet feet every time I come in, because I've been dealing with that for the last 2.5 years. So $100 on boots, and then I need a pair of tennis shoes. Mine are very worn, and I've had them for I think 3 years now, and they're just really old and not working on my feet. And next is an espresso machine, and I know you might be looking at me and going, "What? How is that a priority?" Or why is that a primary? This is on the primary list. My coffee is what gets me up in the morning and gets me moving. It's what keeps me from flying off the handle and hurting anyone. Just kidding. It really is something that I cherish every day, and it also helps with my headaches. So I have been drinking less coffee since I moved to a pour over system, and we live at altitude. So water boils at a lower temperature, and everything reacts differently at altitude. So I'm having under extracted coffee because there's no pressure. It's just going through. So it's not fully extracting the coffee, and it just doesn't taste very good. I'm sure that if I were on sea level, things would be radically different, but I'm not. The other aspect of all of this is that I had an espresso machine. I did the math. I'm using a third more coffee each month. And I'm having less coffee. Like I'm drinking less coffee, but I'm actually still using by like 1 whole unit a day, if not 2. Which I think at that time I only was having about 1 cup a day, and then I'd switch to tea, and now I'm having 2. So I'm pretty sure that if I redid the math again over the next 3 months, if I continue to use this system, what would happen is I would be using 2/3 as much coffee, or 2/3 more coffee than I'm currently using. And at 1/3, I was already going to be spending $160 more a year on coffee. And that is a lot of money for less coffee and more headaches. So I need an espresso machine because when I had that, I was able to drink as much coffee as I wanted. I'm a very sporadic person, and sometimes I just really am craving an iced coffee, and I don't want to drive to Starbucks and spend $5 on an iced coffee. And on top of that, it's better when I make it at home. I just want my coffee to be good, and I want to be able to have the type of coffee I want when I want it. And that's really all there is to it. So I need an espresso machine because even I had two in like 18 to 24 months, and they broke within a year because they were $100 coffee pots, I mean, $100 espresso machines. So, but even with them breaking every year, I would and having to replace them every year at $100, I would still be saving money by like $50 a year. It's a no, and to have better coffee. It's just a no-brainer. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things you're like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. And that's where I'm at with that, because there is a diminishing returns concept where it no longer makes sense to continue to do this idiocy or make this happen. And in order for me to have iced coffee with the pour over system, I have to make it and then cool it in the fridge for 6 to 8 hours. And that doesn't make any sense. That I tend to waste it because now I'm no longer in the mood for the iced coffee. You know what I mean? So it's just frustrating. So those are like the things I need, and the shirts are secondary. The jeans right now are primary because I only have one pair of jeans that actually fit me. I stopped working out 3 times a week and I gained some weight. So the pandemic has caused me, and I'm almost 40. So the hips have done what Greek women hips do and German women hips do. They are expanding a bit as I near menopause. I definitely need the boots. Those are a primary, like a high priority primary. High priority is the winter boots. The non-high rise jeans are a primary goal, and the tennis shoes are a secondary because I'm gonna wear my boots most of the time when I'm out right now, just because it's cold and I don't like being cold. And again, my ankles are cold, which makes the rest of me very cold. And the espresso machine, believe it or not, is a high priority. So other things that are of a high priority and urgent nature, my front brakes and rotors need to be switched out. I have the money for that. I just need to schedule it. And my registration with emissions is coming up in December, and I need $225 for that. Bear with me a second. I'm actually going to get my cash budget, my cash envelope. They're not pretty. P.S. I just finally got something to where I don't know if I can stretch it. I got something that's going to allow me to actually record my desk. So I'm hoping that that works and we can start actually doing some cash stuff, which we're going to talk about in a second. But let me grab that folder and see where I'm at with that. Okay, so currently I have in cash one, two, three, 540. So at 540, if I only need 420, which is what the quote was with tax, for my brakes, that leaves me with $120 toward my emissions, meaning that I need another 125 between now and the end of December for that. Right? No, 105. Sorry, 105. So that's something that is not unattainable. Like, I can't pull that out right now, but I could probably put $10 toward that. And then I just need to continue. Hopefully I'll get paid soon, by that guy who hasn't paid me yet. And I could put like $20 out of that toward it. And then I need to get into a chiropractor because my neck, I think part of my headache problem is it's a combination of a lot of factors. But the fact that my neck is completely out of whack is probably a huge factor of that. And it continuously gets out of whack. So I probably need to factor that into my budget, getting to a chiropractor on a regular basis for an adjustment. And then obviously we have Christmas shopping coming up. I've already bought one thing for my son, but we are definitely going to be getting him a new tablet, because my iPad crapped out on him, and then he got my husband's old iPad or uh, Samsung tablet, and a couple weeks ago that crapped out on him. So he is without a tablet, which really isn't a huge deal, but it is something he used every single day. So, and it was a way for him to connect with his friends and talk to people, talk to my parents, et cetera, et cetera. So it's something that we find important for him to have and would like for him to have because he has no siblings. So he's a lonely kid who needs to be able to communicate with other people, especially his grandparents. So that is on the docket for Christmas. So we also, need to be able to afford that. And I want to get him some books, and I want to get him a little bit of clothing, stuff like that, because he has outgrown all of his clothes, like all of his clothes. And that's taken a while to do, and it's pretty impressive for him, but he's finally there, and I'm very excited. And he also finally managed to knock out one of the knees in one of his pairs of jeans. That's never happened before, so I was really happy for him. And he was like, I'm kind of proud of myself. I roughhoused. And I was like, yeah, but so anyway, that's kind of our plan. And those are my priorities. Now to get there, we're coming up on tax season. So I could definitely add another client. And then some of even my quarterly clients are going to be more hours than I would have had. And I have a big cleanup that hopefully will start soon. I'm kind of praying that one of my clients who has just taken a really long time to get me stuff starts getting his stuff together, because he has several years worth of stuff to do. So it was kind of exciting, and I was very happy, but I have not gotten the stuff yet. So there's that. All right, guys, I think that I have rambled on enough for you today, and if you stuck by through all of this, I really appreciate it. I hope that you have an amazing, amazing day. I'm going to kind of go into how I'm going to be saving, especially for the clothing things, and what the plan is there. I need to create that plan first, and figure out what my income is going to be for the next 2 months. And then I can really kind of plan for that, because really, realistically, I need to get the boots. And then I also need to get the money for my emissions put away. And once I have all of that money put away and it can just sit there for, and I can actually get my stuff done on time, I hope. That would be great. And then I need to call the state and see if we can change out when I have my registration due, because it's just kind of the worst timing ever to do it in December, especially with as costly as it is. But also at the same time, next year, my plan is to start saving for that in January, so that by December, it's not as huge of a deal. And if I budget for the 225 every time, I can kind of get a little bit ahead, because you only have to do the emissions every 2 years here. So it'll be 175 next year, if that makes sense. All right, guys, I hope you have a great day, and I'll talk to you all soon. See ya. Bye.